All right. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen and we will get started here. If I can get this to go. Okay, perfect. Share. All right. Okay, hopefully you can all see that, but welcome to Stronger Sessions, session 2, training with your cycle. And I'm really excited about this one. So we're going to get going right away here. Um, so like we talked about last time, the reason why we're here is because we're learning to lift smart. We want to train with our hormones, not against them. And we want to build strength that really lasts for decades. So, hello everyone. My name is Laura Morgan. I'm a family medicine physician and happy that you've joined today. Or if you're catching on the replay, that's awesome too. So, if you've ever felt like you've crushed one workout, like, wow, that was so good, and then the next week it feels like it just completely fell flat or you completely lost momentum or progress, that doesn't mean that you're inconsistent or that you're failing. It just means that you're cyclical. And as a woman, we all well, most of us do have a menstrual cycle, and that does affect our strength and our workouts and how we recover. So I just wanted to talk quickly about that today, and then if there's any questions, you guys can ask those at the end. So let's get going. The first, so the first thing that I kind of want to just make very clear is that women are not small men or but a lot of times, women are not represented well in research. Um, and most training programs that you'll see out there are actually built specifically for men or around men, um, and male physiology. And male physiology is relatively stable hormone-wise, throughout the whole month. So obviously not like female physiology at all. Our hormones fluctuate throughout the month significantly, and estrogen and progesterone do affect our strength and recovery significantly. So there's a couple different ways in which, that we talked about last week with perimenopause, how estrogen and progesterone can affect, and I'll kind of review those quickly. So estrogen is really something that's very, very good. It can enhance several aspects of our exercise. It can improve fat oxidation, so it can improve our use of breaking down fat for energy. And it really can spare carbohydrate use. So we're able to use fat more than we're able to than or better than we can use carbohydrates, and it kind of saves carbohydrates for when we really need them. It can also prolong muscle endurance capacity, so we can work out longer. And it can also protect our cell membrane so there's not as much damage occurring to the muscle cells. So, pretty cool actually that estrogen can do all that. And progesterone usually is kind of like doing the opposite of a lot of these effects. So I just want you to keep that in mind as we're kind of going through the menstrual cycle. And I'll pull up a picture next and we'll kind of just touch on some key points there. Um, but all this to say, our energy use, our coordination, and our recovery all shift throughout the month, so it's not always the same. So this is if you study health at all, it'll bring you back to your days of physiology. So what this chart goes over basically is shows how the main hormones how they kind of fluctuate during the month. It also shows like what the ovaries are doing and what the uterus is doing. So, and I'll kind of quickly go through that, but we're really going to touch on right here this estradiol and progesterone, or estrogen and progesterone. Okay. So you can see during like the first few days, and it might be hard to see down here, but down here it starts basically at day 1 and goes all the way to day 28-ish. Not everyone's exactly the same with that, but basically where it starts is at the first day of your menstrual period. So when your first day of bleeding happens, okay? So when that happens, basically our estrogen is falling a little bit. And then after a couple of days, it starts to climb again and it peaks around right before the mid-cycle. So like right before ovulation, which is usually about right in the middle, about day 14. And you can see that right here. And that's ovulation, if you don't know, is when every month you have an egg that's released from the ovaries and it's released into the uterus. And that's how you can get pregnant. So then after that peak of estrogen, then it starts to fall again, and then the progesterone starts to increase. So remember I said um, estrogen is kind of what makes exercise easier, so that very first part of the menstrual cycle is a really good time. You're feeling really good. But then after that estrogen falls and the progesterone starts going up, that's kind of the point where you're feeling not so good. Okay? And then towards the end of your cycle, right before your period starts, both of those start to kind of fall again. And usually people about a week before their period starts are feeling pretty crummy. And then once their period comes, they start to feel a little bit better a couple of days after that. So again, we're just gonna go through the phases. Like each phase we'll just kind of talk about quickly. So during the follicular phase, or day 1 to 14, remember I talked about on that chart that our estrogen is kind of slowly rising. So that's kind of when we're feeling very good. We have better insulin sensitivity, so our body's able to use insulin a little bit better, and we get a little bit more energy quicker that way. Usually have a little bit higher of a pain tolerance during this, so if you're going for a PR, now's the time to do it. If you're in day 1 to 14, and you usually have more explosive power, and that just comes with the utilization of energy is a little bit easier during this phase. So again, this is your PR window. If you're looking to hit a PR, day or weeks 1 and 2 of your menstrual cycle are gonna be the keys. If you're going to push the intensity, this is the time to do it. Okay. So this is also, you can keep in mind like heavier lifts. If you're kind of programming around your menstrual cycle, you're going to want to kind of focus your heavier lifts these weeks. Progressive overload is going to be important during these couple of weeks. And if you're into higher intensity circuits, you can definitely do those during the first few weeks of your period. Okay, so then we reach ovulation. So that's the peak estrogen. Remember how I showed you on that chart? It kind of slowly was rising, and then right before ovulation, it kind of peaks. So this is when our strength and power as women is usually the highest. We feel the best because this is when our estrogen is the highest. Um, we feel powerful, but we also need to remember, um, the ligaments are a little bit more lax during this phase, so we do want to respect our form and make sure we're really paying attention to our form. Even though we're feeling really good, we're maybe hitting a really good PR because we're feeling so good, we do want to pay attention to that form and make sure that we're making sure that is like spot on and not getting injuries. Okay, so moving on to the luteal phase or luteal phase, that's usually like the last half of your menstrual cycle. And this is the point where estrogen's kind of tanked now or dropped, and then the progesterone's kind of rising. And remember, that is the progesterone can increase the carbohydrate utilization, it can elevate your core body temperature. It can make ventilation a little bit higher during exercise. So we're not quite feeling as good during this phase of our menstrual cycle. Or we recover a little bit slower. We require a little bit more time for recovery. it feels like we're working a little bit harder, because again, that body temp increases and we're not utilizing our energy stores quite as efficiently as we are during that follicular phase. So how can you apply this today, right now? So the number one thing you can do is track your cycle. If you're not already tracking it, you can do it in an app. The iPhone has like a built-in health app. That's how I track mine. You can put it in your notes app. You can just put it on your calendar, like your whatever calendar is on your phone. You can just keep track of the days that you have your period, that you are bleeding. Um, Even if it's a rough estimate, just so you can kind of know where you're at, and it's like, oh, I'm really struggling. You can probably guess that you're probably in those later phases, um, in that luteal phase. Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, I'm gonna go back here to the luteal phase just slightly. So we talked about recovery is a little bit slower. The one thing that you can do if you're having a lot of trouble is just decrease your load that you're lifting. So it's called load reduction, or decrease the amount of weight that you're lifting by about 5 to 10%. So it doesn't take much. Like it's not that we're really losing a whole lot, it's just a little bit, and it's just temporary. And oftentimes, when we do reduce that load of weight that we're lifting just slightly for a week or two, the next couple of weeks after that, our muscles have recovered better, and then we're able to lift higher that next follicular phase. So I just want to remind everyone, like during this time, this luteal phase, it's not that we're failing, like it's just our physiology, and we need to shift things a little bit to kind of um, keep in a good mindset there. Okay, so how do we apply this? Let's track our cycles. Let's keep track of when our period is so we know, and we can use this information to our benefit and to our strength. Um, Another good tip is to, when you're having more trouble, you can use RPE, or rate of perceived exertion. Instead of forcing you to get like a certain weight or whatever, just use your rate of perceived exertion. How how do you feel like this workout is, like on a scale of 1 to 10? If you feel like you're going at a 10, even though your weight is not quite at what it has been in the past, that's okay. All right, just use how exerted you feel. And then let's just adjust things slightly. Like I said, that 5 to 10% load reduction, if you need it, you can definitely do that. Just reduce it slightly. We're going to want to keep our quality of our movement, or our form, very high. We want to make sure we're avoiding any injuries. So don't sacrifice your form. If you need to decrease the weight, but don't sacrifice your form. And then just stay consistent. So let's not quit. Let's just stay consistent. Let's do what we can do. Let's reduce the load a little bit, reduce the time of, like the length of time that you're working out for, and just adjust a little bit. Trust me, it won't be the end of the world if you need to adjust. Um, it's okay. Because we're not chasing perfection. We're building consistency that lasts across decades, okay? So that we can be stronger now, in our 40s, 50s, and 60s and beyond than maybe we ever were in our 20s. So being aware of our cycle is really a powerful thing. And our hormones aren't a problem, but ignoring that we do have hormones and that they fluctuate, that is a problem. Because we want to make sure that we're working with our body, not against it. And again, like training with our cycle and maybe scaling back a little bit on the reduction, or reducing the amount of weight that we're lifting, it doesn't mean that we're doing less. It means that we're doing what works for our body in that certain time. So let's not try to override our physiology. Let's understand our physiology and use it as a tool to become stronger. Okay? So I just want to end with, again, remember, we're not training just to look strong. We're training to stay capable, independent, and powerful for decades. Thanks everyone for coming. I'll see you next week.